What's up, Calgary? Great Northern Discussions. I'm your host, Kevin Tucker, and we're back into the studio again with another councillor candidate. He's one of four candidates running for Ward 6. We had John Pantazopoulos in here today. It's a pretty good episode. We talk about a hot topic that we've talked about with all the candidates, Blanket Rezoning. We beat that up pretty good. Then we get into a bit of his past life. He spent the bulk of his career in the energy sector, which I always love to talk about. Then we get into safety, fiscal responsibility. I also asked him the question on what his thoughts were on parties running in this year's municipal election, which is a first-time pilot. So stick around. It's a good one, folks. As always, many thanks to our sponsors, Lone Star Directional Drilling. All right, so John, good to see you again. I'm thinking back to the first time I met you, and it is going back all the way to, I want to say, March.
It was, a small world. We were at a seniors facility today doing a presentation and talking to neighbors, and the gentleman who was volunteering, I said, I'm coming to do a podcast a little later, and he remembers meeting on the street. It was you and your family going for a walk, a beautiful day, and I just randomly said, hi, I'm John. I'm running to be Ward 6 City Councillor, and we had a great chat, and that was probably February, March, I think, of earlier this year.
Yeah, it was February or March, so we're talking 6-7 months ago, that you're out pounding the street already, running for Ward 6. So I got to ask that question. First of all, you're in here because it's my ward.
Yeah.
So running, no offense to any other candidate, but I saw you the most. So, I like your hustle. Can't deny the hustle. You've been out for so long pounding the street. But what drove you to decide to run, and why?
A couple things.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Because you're ex Oil and Gas. Your CEO will dive into the past, but I mean, you're leaving Oil and Gas to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The journey started when I was a young boy, and it really just comes down to service. It's the first question I ask: why do you want to become a councillor? And ever since I was a young boy, my family always taught us, you give back to your community, whatever that community is, a place of worship, a sports, a city, whatever it is. Calgary's given me everything. I moved here 25 years ago. It's given me friends, family, opportunity. It's the reason I came here, just for an amazing opportunity. Go west, young man, and what an amazing opportunity it's been. And I want to make Calgary that much a little better. And it's given me everything I can possibly dream of. And I'm hoping that if I get a privilege to serve as councillor, 4 years, maybe longer if I'm so lucky, that you can make Calgary just that much a little better and make it where the next generation of entrepreneurs, next generation of energy executives and people want to come to Calgary for those same reasons that I came.
Well, and we're both similar there, and there's got to be hundreds of thousands more that are transplants. I wonder what that percentage is these days. But so where did you come from?
So I was raised I was born in Athens, Greece. Mom's Canadian, dad's Greek. They met here. They moved back to Greece. I moved back to Canada when I was 9 years old to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. Went there, a wonderful city, a wonderful place to be brought up. Went to the University of Saskatchewan, did my Bachelor's of Commerce. And then when I graduated, I always wanted to be in corporate finance. And Toronto was a little too big. New York was a little too big. And had some family here, some friends, and my brother moved out here a year or two before, and I said, let's come to Calgary. What an amazing opportunity. So moved out here on June 5th, 2000, and I remember that date because you were coming down, I was staying at my aunt and uncle's, and we were coming down Elbow Drive, and I was at Bankers Hall. I was with CIBC World Markets, and we come down and you see Bankers Hall, and my uncle said to me, it took me 25 years to get to Bankers Hall. It took you 2 weeks. And here I started the career. So it's been 25 years in the making, my Calgary story.
Well, geez, I was just ripping through Bankers Hall yesterday, and you'd appreciate this. My daughter, who's 8 years old, her favorite takeout is Opa.
Of course.
So there you go.
Well, what a made in Calgary story. Actually, I reconnected with an individual, one of the founders, ones that started Opa, made in Calgary. A few years ago, I received the Queen Jubilee Medal, and there was about 20 or 25 of us that received it. And sure enough, one of the founders of OPA, so we reconnected over coffee. He lives in the ward. And it was just sort of a great story. Realize it's just that whole Calgary, that entrepreneurial started from one, and now they're across Western Canada. They're expanding into Ontario. So it's just you hear so many of those stories.
Yeah, those are great stories. Well, and you came here not unlike myself, same thing for Move West Young Man, like you say, and it is the entrepreneurial heart of the West for sure. But anytime I get to sit with someone from the energy sector, of course, I get giddy like a schoolgirl. I get excited. So we have to dive into that.
course.
So after you're a finance guy. So why don't we talk about sort of your transition out of finance into the energy side?
Absolutely. I started my career in banking, and I think every young finance professional, you have to spend time in a bank, because the opportunity that was presented to me, I had amazing mentors, and I would be sitting in boardrooms, Husky, Pan-Canadian, large multi-billion dollar, multi-country organizations, and I just got to absorb and listen. And that mentorship, I'd be able to work on a transaction and then walk back to the office and talk to the managing directors. But fundamentally, you're a career banker or you're not. And I was always an entrepreneur. I always wanted to do something. So my journey, I left and joined a company called Petroreef. I was the youngest CFO on the TSX Venture. It was right before there was a concept called the royalty trusts, and those sort of fell apart. And I think it was the Halloween scare of 2007.
Sorry, how old were you? You said
I was 29 at the time. So
CFO.
that was CFO, and that was amazing. So worked there, met some wonderful people, and that sort of continued on. Worked at a private equity-backed junior oil and gas company. We raised hundreds of millions of dollars. That was absolutely amazing experience to go and raise that capital and deploy it here in Alberta. We were 100% Alberta-based. And then ultimately went back to banking for a couple of years to run the energy group at ATB Financial, and that was an amazing experience. And then just as COVID started, me and I call them some brothers from another mother, folks that I met many years ago when we were at Petroreef 20 years ago. And we said, you know what, look, let's start a company. And we've always dreamed of it, and the opportunity presented itself. So we started a company called Lucky Strike. We acquired some assets from a large company that were underloved. And it was that traditional Calgary story. I saw that as a banker. Men and women would join together. They've got an idea, a geological idea, a way to run a business. And, the large companies, they're amazing at what they do, but the small little, I use the analogy, sort of crumbs that fall off the table, and we're the little mice sort of nibbling on it. So we acquired some assets, and it's been an absolute success. We bought 1,000 BOEs. As the metric, of course, we're just outside of Drayton Valley, west of Drayton, in an area called Cynthia. And today we're at about 2,500 BOEs, very successful, and still having lots of fun. We've diversified since. We're sort of all things energy. We've got some solar. We've got some public companies that we run. I was chairperson of E3 Lithium. So all things Alberta, all things E3. That was a...
Let's talk about
absolutely.
E3, that's important.
They are an absolutely amazing organization. So this is a made in Alberta opportunity where there are formations underground us here, literally from Calgary to Edmonton to Rocky Mountain House over to Stettler. And there's lithium here in Alberta. And this amazing team led by Chris Dornbos, just a true visionary. And he said, John, would you join as interim CFO as well as on the board? And this was about 5-6 years ago. And I said, absolutely, help him out. And then he brought on a full-time CFO, and I stayed on the board. And it was a wonderful journey. I unfortunately stepped away from the board to pursue politics. And it was just really something about me is if I couldn't give it 100%, I just didn't want to stay. I was chairperson, and we'll come back to that trust that the other directors give. And Chris, they just needed a different chair. And I said, look, it's time. So we had a conversation and left. It's an amazing company. We're going to produce lithium literally in the next 5 years. We're going to be producing lithium here in the province of Alberta. It's going to, change the world, change Alberta. And the beauty about that, you talked about energy. What I love is it's new and novel technology, yet it's drilling conventional wells. It's producing fluid, water. So the team that drilled the first lithium well ever was CWC, the drilling company. These men and women they've drilled thousands of oil and gas wells. The geologists, 99% of the team are oil and gas people. So you see this synergy. It's not a retooling. It's using that amazing expertise we have in Calgary, finance, legal, geology, engineering, land, and pivoting it now to producing brine, oil field brine with lithium. So it's just an amazing story, and it was just wonderful to be a part of that.
Yeah, I love hearing those. And I like that we get to, when we talk about energy and drilling practices, and then we talk about new call it plays or fronts out there, like geothermal, for example. You talk about like deep earth. It always goes back to, we're piggybacking off of the conventional drilling practices that is helping get us to chase that next alternative,
100%.
which is all of the above right now.
Yeah, no, it's using that that deep knowledge, that expertise, and those skills are so transferable. And that's what's amazing, and why I think you can never write off Alberta. You can never write off the oil patch, because we have continued to reinvent ourselves. I'm reminded, my old company, Tangle Creek, and you talk about innovation. This was just the private equity firm that backed us. I remember our first well we drilled, and it was a Dunvegan well, and we were super happy. It was $5 million.
Just for the people, Dunvegan is like BC on the Alberta.
Yeah.
Like kind of on the border out that way,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you bet. Yeah, it's a type of formation. It was just, we drilled there. Obviously, there's formations all the way down 3,000+ meters.
Yeah.
And the amazing part was we started, back to your innovation comment, and our cost was $5 million a well. And we were patting ourselves on the back because our AFE was for 5.2, and that's authorization for expenditure. And over the next 2-3 years, we cut our costs, incremental little changes from 5.0, 5.1, whatever it was, down to 1.6. And it was all just the innovation of a small company, 30, 40 people in the team working together. How do we do things quicker, faster, stronger? And it's amazing to see that. This is just a group of 20, 30 professionals coming together and look at this innovation, look how this cost cutting, and we were able to enjoy real big success. And it's indicative of that Calgary spirit, that Alberta spirit, that is the difference why we are, the economic capital here in Canada.
Oh, 100%. And when you say you optimized out there, I'm just curious, is that because you're getting into horizontal, or were you going rotary steerable?
I bet you there was 100 different little innovations.
Right.
Open hole, different drilling techniques, changing speeds, changing muds, trying different pressures. It was an amazing, and the most important, and the parallels what we can do, we'll speak a little later about government, but you see, we were not scared to fail. And the difference is you can make incremental little mistakes that doesn't decimate the company. And we knew that, so we kept experimenting. 5 out of 6 didn't work, but the one that did was huge innovation. We tried something, didn't work, huge innovation. So it's all these, there was 100, you could never put your finger, I tried to. As a CFO, I had all the numbers. We drilled 150 wells. I wanted to look at every single one and see what we did. And you couldn't. It was just all incremental changes.
These little subtleties.
Just, it was amazing to see. And then you put them all together, and here you go. You've got this amazing innovation. And it literally, including all the mistakes we made, and that's okay. We made mistakes, but we learned from our mistakes, just like in life and in business. And it was really successful to see.
Yeah. Got to have them. Got to have the mistakes.
Absolutely.
This is what makes us as people or companies.
Absolutely.
And then, so that was Tangle Creek, but then Lucky Strike, I was just curious. Where'd the name come from?
So Lucky Strike came from, it's Lucky Strike would be the tobacco company, and it's sort of, related to sort of the old school. And what the genesis of the name was, we felt sometimes in the oil patch we lost our way a little bit. And what I mean by that is we never focused on costs. You've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years, companies, as a result of oil going negative, as a result of the price of natural gas, I think it's 15 cents today or something, that we always depended on higher and higher prices. And me and my partners had a belief and a narrative that we can do things quicker, faster, stronger. So I mentioned Tangle Creek, we drilled a lot of wells. Lucky Strike, we've never drilled a well. We have just optimization. We're going into old, deemed tired resources and reserves, and we're optimizing. We're just doing a little bit of this, a little pressure, acid jobs, just little work, get a compressor here and there. So it was really sort of representing of an old school way of doing things, that was not just dependent on the price of oil going up or the price of natural gas. We were going to do an old school. I reminded the inspiration behind that sort of approach was a gentleman I worked with at a prior company. He told me a story that his CEO walked in, this was early 90s, and he said, Happy New Year, good to see you. We have 3,000 standing wells that are not producing. You have 5 geologists, 5 engineers, 5 landmen, 5 accountants, a team of 20. Do something with these wells. And he says, I'll come back here in a year and tell me your results. He said he added more production, more value, more cash flow, more reserves, spending 1/10. We used to have exploration drilling back then. Then his whole exploration team, his whole development team, because it was just small incremental changes. You know what? If we just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, the pipeline's there, the compressor's on, we can just activate it. And I was inspired by that. He looked at that and he said it was absolutely amazing for him as a young engineer. He said, oh my goodness, look what we can do. And we took, when we bought the asset, it's 43 wells. there was maybe 7 or 8 producing, and the rest
Yeah.
were just, and now today we're 20 producing.
Really?
So we took the same wells,
Amazing.
and the other ones, there's still some, we're doing injections and
Yeah.
things like that. So there's always, it's not like every opportunity works, but it's just that, just little incremental changes. And it was just a learning, and I'm inspired by, Graham was his name. He recently passed away, but Graham, it was just that don't ever forget that, never write it off. And it was a part of that, and that stuck with me. I mentioned earlier that mentorship. I've had amazing mentorship in banking, amazing mentorship in oil and gas, amazing mentorship in life. And just to be able to get those little gems, little nuggets, and you piece them all together. The duty for us is you get mentors, but you have to put the puzzle together. And hopefully Lucky Strike, I'll let you know how it's successful to date, and I'll let you know when we finish it, the success. So
Yeah, for sure. No, I wanted to go down memory lane on the oil and gas side because, well, we are here, and I'm in the sector as well. So I love going down that road. And it, so technically you're still over there. I guess an outsider might look at your situation and think, why in the hell would a CEO of an energy company want to step down to City Hall?
It's the first question my business partners asked me last April.
Yeah.
And it was around that time when City Hall passed a bylaw called Blanket Rezoning.
Yeah.
And it was shortly after that I said to my partners, I said, you know what, guys, you've known me my whole adult life. I think I want to, this is my time to go into politics. And the first question, are you crazy? What are you doing? And I tell you, the biggest compliment to me is we worked through it together. And when I said in November, I said, look, I'm going to run. I want to do this. This is important to me. They were the first 2 individuals to walk into my office with personal checks to say, here's our maximum. It's all publicly disclosed, $5,000 donation.
Wow.
We love you. You're a brother from another mother. Go get it done. And they've been absolutely amazing. And I sort of went a bit part-time starting January, February, March. One question I do get is, John, you've got all these businesses and how are you going to step away? Well, every day I do a little less and less, and it's because these amazing partners. January, February, March, I was sort of that 4 or 5 days a week, and then it transitioned to 3 or 2, and then over the summer. And now I'm still there. I'm still the first call. I've got my phone on because, if something goes bump in the night in the field, still the CEO, but the team is running it. And my commitment is if I become a councillor, have that privilege, well, then I formally just leave. I have to go, and that's okay. Got to go. And if I don't, then we'll see what happens. We'll see who goes there. And there's several other companies, so that's the transition. But it's 100%. And I go back to service, and that really is just how can I make Calgary a bit better? I mean, these are, the prime opportunities. We know people. There's lots of transactions, but all those skill sets, those things like innovation. I said, just imagine what we can do in the city of Calgary. Imagine the city of innovators, 1.7, 100,000 people moved to Calgary last year. They chose this as their home, just like I did 25 years ago. And if I can bring that business perspective and things that you and I take for granted, collaboration, working together, hard work, and just innovating and trying and failing and trying again, and bringing that to City Hall, it really comes down to that is, you mentioned another inspiration. I remember in 2014, my boys were just entering grade school. And there was an oil and gas recession, and I was the CFO of an oil and gas company. Yep. And neighbors would say, John, tell your boys, get their post-secondary and get out of Calgary. And I remember, what are you talking? I said, what are you talking about? There's nothing here. And I was, well, no, I came here 14 years ago. This was, of course, 10, 11 years ago. And that really upset me. I said, no, I want my kids to come home. I use this sort of jokingly. I said, look, if the boys go join the circus, that's fine. They go run around. But I want them to come home. I want them to come home for the opportunity, for the lifestyle. Yeah. They're entrepreneurial, they're smart boys, and I want them to come back, whatever they choose in life. And it was really, it got me upset because I said, no, I came home.
That would upset me too.
It did because I chose here. No. And so it that might've been an early seed and I just didn't know it. And then ultimately you start seeing and saying, okay, it's my time for service. This is my time to give back. And then, the straw that broke this camel's back was some questionable decisions at City Hall. And I said, okay, it's time. We have to bring a business sense. This is not going the way I want it to. That I believe we can do better. And it really comes down to that service, make Calgary better for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it's not unlike, just as I'm listening to you here, it's not not unlike when I had John Garden in here, lifelong, he was a lifelong oil patch, 30 plus years. Kind of similar in that, I don't know that it was Blanket Rezoning that set him off, but it's like, you guys, you put everything on the line to make hay here, to take a swing at the entrepreneurial angle. You did it. You succeeded. And now you're looking at City Hall going, what the hell? I need to make a change. And so very admirable of you.
Thank you.
But what are you hearing? Because like we said earlier, you've been pounding the pavement hard. Like, no joke, you have been pounding for 7 months.
Well, what's amazing, when we started our campaign, we had some young men and women on our campaign develop an app, and we literally track every correspondence, every interaction, and even our steps. We've knocked on, I looked this morning, 45,218 doors. There's 35,000 doors in the ward. So now we're coming back for a second time. Over 5 million steps. And what's amazing is a very consistent message across all communities. Every community has something a little subtle. I would say the top three, the fourth is always a bit specific to a community. I live in West Springs. There's something specific. Wildwood, Westgate, etc. But the number one and number two and number three, and the order does change. Calgarians want smart spending, thoughtful development, and safe streets. And it's amazing when you bring those up and you have a conversation. Every single person I've talked to said absolutely. And there's a derivative of that. What does safe streets mean to you? But fundamentally, there is a concern. And probably the fourth is transparency, trust, and openness at City Hall. And there's loss. And as a result of the three, there is that loss of transparency, a loss of trust at City Hall. And the expectation is if you build thoughtful development, smart spending, safe streets, you will build that trust back. Trust takes time, just like in business.
Sure.
And but it's amazing that consistent message has been right from the beginning of the campaign, and here we are 9 months later, and it continues, and it's being very well received.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, your that app is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have all the steps. Do you have? Does it track? Like what you talked about? Do you go into detail?
Yeah.
Or?
So what we do is for example, every correspondence we have, it's manually enter. So we enter in, if we met you and you're concerned about traffic, we would enter traffic. It's even down to, we notice your children, play hockey. Okay, we put hockey in it. So the intent is after every time we do a door knock, so now we're doing door knocking 7 days a week, we would always sit down as a team and say, what did we hear? What information did we get? And work and say, okay, what is Cougar Ridge telling us? What is Glamorgan telling us? What is West Springs telling us? What is Signal Hill?
They've all got slightly different needs.
Totally. Sure. And it's important because when we come back, I can speak with a different, not even authority, just saying, hey, your neighbor said this. And it's not just sort of making it up. It literally was, look, your neighbor 2 doors down. And now that we're coming back a second time, it's been absolutely amazing because you're saying, hello, Kim, how are you? Oh, good. You remembered, of course. Kim, your issue was traffic. Your issue was through and one didn't get back to.
Yeah, it's impressive, right?
So by having that, it's been a game changer because now we just know, even as I came here, we've got volunteers outdoor knocking right now, and I can see in real time what's happening, and there's a correspondent. So it just, these are volunteers. It's amazing what they're doing, but it's just a wonderful data. It's the real asset, and now we have that, and we're using it for the betterment of Calgary. And I believe because we've knocked on so many doors, we've talked to so many Calgarians, that if I get the privilege of serving as Ward 6 councillor, when you stand up in council and you say, this is what I believe to be true, it's based on those conversations. And if another councillor stands up and say, I disagree, or somebody from admin, I think you've got an authority to say, thank you. I respect your opinion. 42,000 Calgarians are not wrong. It's our duty to listen to them, our duty to action what they want. And literally, we have the evidence of every correspondence conversation. And not that I'm going to present that at council, but it's a different, and how can you say no to that? It's not just, well, John wants 10 Blanket Rezoning. This is what Calgarians want.
This is actual data.
Actual data, what they've told us at the doors. And it's important at the doors. It's their kitchen table, their backyard. I spent last weekend, a gentleman who was at Calgary Transit. And I said, I want to talk to you, 40 years. And we sat in his garage. We had a beautiful coffee. His wife brought a scone out, and my volunteers are going nuts because they're like, "Where are you? Where are you?" They kept, sort of calling us. I'm having a coffee. Go away. Never did that, volunteers, but it was just sort of fun. But it's those correspondence when you're meeting. How many backyards I've gone to? Hey, John, come listen to the ring road. Yeah, we go around the backyard. Right. Hey, can you come and see what the city did on this path? Absolutely. We hop through under 3 feet of snow, and you look, and you have a conversation, and it goes a long way because you're in people's homes, you're on their front steps and talking about what's important in their community. And that's been the best part of doing this campaign for 9 months. Well,
that's, I can't believe I love the I love the app and the data, and it's very impressive that you've got all that put together like that. And just in line with that, we were talking a little bit earlier, kind of the future. We were talking about podcasts and things like that, how things are changing and evolving, and getting your word out there is no longer the media sound bites. Now you've got things like this and the podcast. And I just wanted to say this real quick to some of the other counselors. I had so many counselors reach out that wanted to come on. And I feel like maybe in the next end of 4 years and I'm still around and I've got a show and people like it, I would gladly sit with everybody and give everybody a platform, because I think it's important. I felt bad I had to turn them away, and we are Ward 6. I got to get you in here. So
you can ask me your question what's on your neighbor's mind and what's in your mind. So absolutely, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's. I think we should steer everybody to if you want to find out about John running in Ward 6. His website is John4Ward6. So John4 Ward6.ca. You can find everything about John. And again, no slag against any other candidates. We've got John in here today. But your three priorities we want to go to, obviously we have to talk about your platform.
Yes.
I'm going to shimmy down real quick because it is, I want to say, right here. We're going to go through all of it as we should. But we have to talk about blanket rezoning.
100%.
So you must have heard that a lot at the doors.
It honestly is the number one issue. And the issue that Calgarians have with it is a city as diverse as Calgary, not just in its people and its communities. A blanket anything makes no sense. My biggest concern with blanket rezoning, ignore the fact that it destroys neighborhoods. Ignore the fact that on a cost basis, you're ripping up roads and sidewalks and parking and all these issues, that we carved out our fundamental duty as elected representatives, the ability to communicate and discuss directly with council about what's impacting their neighborhood. And that's unacceptable. Where do we get that right to come in and say, I can knock down my neighbor's home and build up an eightplex? And I'll tell you a true story. We've held 3 town halls in the neighborhood, 3 town halls in the ward. Yeah. These are people that have reached out because, as you know, we've been without councillor for 11 months.
Yes, we have.
Which is so unfortunate. And people are saying, help, we need leadership. And we brought together 300 people, lawyers, bylaw experts, realtors, and a conversation. And I distinctly remember one where they were talking about an eightplex coming in the neighborhood, and there's no parking, and it's just chaos. And I remember one neighbor saying, you know what I wish? I wish somebody could hear our voice. I wish the developer would have called me, because maybe a fourplex would work. And that stayed with me, because I said, all they wanted is to be heard. We had the privilege of helping a group. There's a 42-unit development, Elveden Drive. And they went to City Hall. And if you listen to what they wanted, they didn't say change the shingles. They didn't say change the paint color. They didn't say move this. They said they wanted a voice. They wanted an elected official, somebody to represent their needs. And it was denied. Fortunately, this council, in its wisdom, deferred it until after the election. And
thank God.
Thank goodness. And you know, I'll take it even further. We held one of these volunteer events. We had 100 volunteers. We had a barbecue. We were what's called literature dropping, and just building community. And of course, I got a chance to do my little stump speech in front of the volunteers. And my boys, they pulled me and said, Dad, why are you so upset about blanket rezoning? And I said, let me show you. And we walked outside. And next door to the community association there was a building under development. And there was a sign. And the sign said, webuyland.ca. And I said to my boys, I said, it's not build community. It's not build houses. It's not build neighborhoods. When you commoditize community, I'm a business owner. I'm 100%. We're for profit. We make money as best as we can. But when you commoditize neighborhoods, when it came we buy land, it started to say, this is why it doesn't make sense. You're tearing apart communities. You have no ability for those members in the community to speak and have their voice heard, and it's unacceptable. And it's just when you can show your children, Dad, okay, I see now. I understood, because they couldn't make that connection. Well, what is it? You're a business owner. These people are business. I'm not right, and I'm not upset at the developers. They're business people. They understand the rules and they play within. I had a conversation with one the other day, but my issue is the leadership, and it goes down to that the leadership allowed this. And There's lots of conversations. 800 Calgarians, I was one of them. 800 Calgarians went and spoke at City Hall, and council said, thank you very much. We're going to go another way. And if it was 50-50, fine. When it was 90%, give or take 88, 90%, like it's just, you have to listen. I started with that 42,000 doors, the top three are duty. It's been missing. And that goes back to leadership and just the failure at top of house to have that leadership and represent Calgarians.
Yeah. Well, I've talked about it with every single councillor candidate, et cetera. And that was obviously a massive trigger for your to run, 100%. As said earlier. But it pissed everybody off because they rammed it through. And we had, like you said, and you joined in the speaking. How did that go down there? Like there's a perfect example. You have a job. You have a job. You had to go down and wait.
It's exactly that's, and it was absolutely. I remember it was, you're sort of given a window, and it was at 2:00, and I wanted to be early, so I went down at lunch, and I didn't speak till 8. And back to that, I remember an individual speaking a couple hours before me, and chief economist from the Calgary Real Estate Board that said, look, they did a presentation about the impacts, how it will not have an impact on property values. And then the next day, a councillor stands up in council after I spoke the night before and said, oh yeah, it'll lower property values. Like you're not even listening to the experts. And it bothered me no end, but you're exactly correct. I mean, I'm fortunate enough. I had the flexibility. I could say to my team, hey, I'm going down there. My children are old enough that, they're at home alone or with my wife and you could do it. But you're absolutely correct is that for your 5 minutes, literally, and they have somebody with a stopwatch sort of looking there and saying, and the hook at 5. It
was almost like a dog and pony show. Like everybody come in, that's what it felt like after. Everybody come in, say their beef. This will last however long it lasts. And when they're done, okay, we heard you, but we're not listening.
No, that's, and it's interesting segue, what, because the question always comes, well, John, what is the alternative? And you and I are both business people and you can't just complain. You have to have a solution. And I think what we had worked. The only exception is we need more engagement. I think of, I went down, we did the Bow Trail and Sarcee Trail overpass. It's been on the works 20, 30, 40 years, as long as I've lived in the West Side. And I remember the engagement. A young engineer, a very smart person said, hello, how are you? Here's a Post-it note. Here's a pen. Write what you think and put it on the whiteboard. And I said, well, what are you going to do with it? Oh, we'll summarize it. And I said, that's not engagement. I said, well, you're going to call me? No, we don't do that.
Throwing me a bone.
Well, literally, I put my note, stuck it on a whiteboard, and hopefully they can read my chicken scratch. So where do we go to? Think of those LAPs, local area plans. One of the reasons that Alveden Drive had such a concern is for years, the community association, developers, and the city worked together. This is how you build trust and relationships. For 5-6 years, they worked on a plan. And guess what? Some people liked it, some people didn't. That means it probably worked because everybody came to a consensus. And then we ripped those up and say, we're putting a 42-plex down the street. Like, just talk about that. That is crazy. You had 5 years of discussion where the community agreed to our density. I'm pro-development. I'm pro-development where it makes sense, where there's transit, where there's a water main, where there's a sewer line that can handle it. My mother lived in Bowness, and she suffered through that water main break. And that lack, we delivered. We delivered bottled water to her for 5 weeks because we just didn't trust. We didn't know. We wanted to make sure. And it was just, so you saw how critical that infrastructure is. And you have this consensus development along there. Makes total sense. Development 5 blocks south off a C-train on a cul-de-sac where you're knocking down trees. And it makes no sense to me. No sense to me.
Yeah. It's, it's a real big bone for a lot of people in that, there was another one up there. If we're going to gripe about Ward 6, we'll get back to your platform. Okay. No, our daughter, she goes to Griffith Woods, and we might even mention this to you at the door. Not sure, but it's a real gong show for parking. There's only one little 4-way. There's nowhere to park for parents, so it's very stressful for the parents. It's fairly organized, but it's just stressful. Because you've got so much traffic. And then they decided to put in, do some construction, and they put in these bike lanes up there. But then they did the construction in the winter. So during the winter in -40, it was stressful, freezing. And, our daughter, she did say she almost got hit one day.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, I don't know how bad it was, but I could see it because I see it almost every day up there. So it's like you say, there's no communication. There's no communication.
No, I think, think of that development. I use the analogy of a domino. And, as a kid, when you push the first domino, you have to think about what's next. The domino to the domino to the domino. So think of that development. In the plan, in the road plan, it spoke about there's no sidewalks. There's no sidewalks. You have children walking to school, and it said something like, we'll get to it in due course. And it goes back to that planning. You've got a high school, you've got a university, you've got a K-9, you've got a church. Like it's just, you have to go and plan, you have to communicate, you have to understand the area, and you cannot do things in due course. Safety is not in due course. You have to address it now. Go down the list for fire, go down for police, go down to transit, like all these issues, power. You have to think about it today. The domino, what's the domino effect? What's the 10 steps that we're not thinking about? You have to plan it back when you're thinking of development. A single home, it's not going to have a material impact. You do it 100 times, it now has a material impact.
Yeah, no question. Okay, I agree there. Let's, we had to beat that one up for sure,
Absolutely.
but just in part of your platform again, and you did talk about it briefly, but let's talk about fiscal responsibility.
Absolutely. I think I'll tell you what isn't fiscal responsibility. An 8.9% increase in property tax, and Calgarians are feeling that there's a drop in service levels. It is not sustainable. You cannot have a business. The city is a business. It's not about making money. It's giving roads and sewer and trash and police and fire, these core services to Calgarians, where you have an unsustained. And I recognize a portion of that's from the province, but the city was 2/3 of that change. And where do we have a situation? Our duty is to make things work quicker, faster, stronger. And I think it comes down to that culture. We have to do things quicker, faster, stronger. Have a culture of success. Have a culture of, let's spend $90 instead of $100. Let's look at just not optimizations. Is there ways to improve? And I'll use a real life example. I was chairperson of the Calgary Parking Authority, which owns the city parking lots downtown in Calgary. From 2014 to 2020 or 2020. It was 6-7 years. I think it was 13, but I became chair in 14.
Okay.
And in 2014, there was a recession. Just remember that story about my kids saying leave Calgary. And we sat in a room and we said, look, we have to optimize and cut costs. But we had 3 North Stars, just like in business: asset integrity, quality of product, and customer satisfaction. And every dollar has to go back to those 3 North Stars. It was amazing because you had this room, people collaborating, working, whiteboards, and they cut something like 18% from their operating costs. We were one of the most, our revenues were flat because people were unfortunately getting laid off. And here's an example. And me as the chairperson, we empowered the people to make choices. We allowed them to make small mistakes. Make a mistake. If you try something, optimize. There was people in security, the people at the front desk, and it was just amazing to watch. And you could see when the smallest, what they believed to be the smallest team member, they were amazing and they made real change. And you saw that. So I go back to the folks at City Hall are amazing. They're hardworking people.
Sure.
It's the leadership. When you come back and do not mandate that, just as council dissolved, administration said, we want a 5, 6, 7% increase, and everybody sort of shrugged their shoulders. Like, you have to set that tone from the top. Calgarians are not getting 6, 7% salary increases. We were just at a senior. They're not. No. It's inflation isn't 6, 7, 8% anymore. So you can lose that excuse. And yes, the city's growing, but then you get synergies. You have to keep learning. We're the most innovative city in Canada, maybe possibly the world. We have to bring that innovation to City Hall, and it's tone from the top. It's not just words. It's showing action. Every department, what are your goals? What are your objectives? How are you going to achieve it? And then you come back and saying, did you outperform? Because if you outperform, just like in business, you will get rewarded. And whether it's monetary or more capital or spending more money, if Parks comes back and say, we had an amazing experience, we spent 90% and got 110% of our objectives, fantastic. I will be the first to stand up and say, we're going to spend more because it's making Calgary that much of a better city. And you can just tell there's not that business-led initiative understanding at City Hall. When you look at the former 14 councillors and 1 mayor, nobody had senior business leadership experience. Nobody's been a CEO of a large organization. Nobody has ever done billion-dollar budgets. And it's very challenging. Nobody's ever innovated. I talked about that 5.1 down to 1.6. It's 100 different initiatives. And every initiative seems small until it started. Again, the domino, and you start seeing the snowball effect. And I believe that City Hall is ripe. The people working there are smart. I mentioned that gentleman at 40 years in transit. He says, John, you're the first politician that actually wanted to sit down and talk to me about innovation, because it helped me understand how can we make transit a little better. He says, nobody's come down. So we need to change that culture.
Yeah.
And it starts at top of house, and top of house is the elected officials being council.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's like chipping away. You have to chip away at it, right?
100%.
Okay. And then, and we beat the heck out of Blanket already. So like we have all the time in here, but let's talk about safety.
Safety. You know what? Look, I still fundamentally believe Calgary is a safe city, of course. However, I use that analogy. There's cracks.
Doesn't feel like it right
now. Well, no, and it's a fair. No,
right?
you're correct. And look, the fact that family members and friends refuse to take transit, that downtown people don't want to go downtown. Yeah. We are making an intergenerational investment in Calgary. Intergenerational. We're spending $1 billion on a rink, several billion on a green line, an arts common that will rival Massey Hall in Toronto. This is going to be amazing. There's going to be stages and performing, and then the restaurants and hotels. If we don't do something about transit safety, we don't do something about downtown safety, where you, your family, your friends feel safe today, in 5 years when all of those amazing facilities are built, it'll be a waste. Because nobody will want to go. When I say to you, let's go down and watch a show, I'll watch it on TV. Let's go do here. We'll go to the local pub. And you need that. So how do you do it? What we've experienced is there's a term called a cop to pop ratio. So a police officer, sworn officers to population, generally in Calgary was around 150 per 100,000. Since I moved here in 2000, it ebbs and flows. And I always felt generally safe. And we had, all of a sudden, as our population exploded, that number started to trend down. So you're starting to see, I'm not advocating we're going doubling, tripling, quadrupling, but when a poor police officer, then the fact that 19% are on some sort of leave, just talk about that. That is where there's smoke, there's fire. What is that telling you? So now, instead of 5 calls, they're dealing with 10 calls. So are they going to go and respond to a transit? There's somebody having an incident on transit, or do you focus over here? You can just see that. We have to invest in our public safety, but public safety is also fire, ambulance. As our city grows, we live in I live in West Springs, and there's some developments, larger towers coming. Perfect. We have to expand the fire halls. We've confirmed that. It's not in budget. How can you fail to plan to fail? Like you cannot have these fire trucks coming from halfway across town. You have to plan for that today. Transit, the fact that I moved to Calgary 25 years ago, when I lived downtown when I was young and single, and I never felt unsafe. And
that's true.
We used to take transit. My wife and I, we moved to Marda Loop, and we take transit. It was always felt safe. To me, it's pilot. Try different things. So, for example, maybe we do things like put a security guard at every single station. If you do 10 to a pilot, you get a baseline like we do in business. You get a baseline. You try it for a few months. It'll cost $1 million, a lot of money. But if you have 500 Calgarians choose to use transit for fun, go to the rink, go to work, you've more than paid for it. Perfect. How do you make transit safe? You make it busy. The best and safest time is 10 o'clock on Stampede Tuesday, because the kids, there's grandparents, there's adults. It's fun. It's exciting. You've got young people, old people, everybody in between. And it's safe because I remember going on the train where you're literally shoulder to shoulder. Well, nothing could happen because you're shoulder to shoulder. So we have to get back to that. And then guess what? I'm a business person. If it's safe, ridership increases. You know what? Instead of every 15 minutes, maybe it's every 10 minutes. Maybe it's every 5 minutes. Instead of 3 cars, it's now 4 cars. Look what happened on the weekend. They went from 3 cars to 2 cars. Well, that tells you people are not using it. And I respect the decision. Somebody was, hey, let's be thoughtful, but it's the wrong way. I wish it was going to 4 cars. We're so busy on a Saturday when it's 25 degrees out. Everybody's going downtown. They want to go visit friends. I wish it was going to 4 and saying, oh my goodness, can we add 5? I don't know if it's practical, but at least you see that trend. It again, smoke where there's fire, that we're shrinking down because the demand is not there. We have to address that safety because we've got too much at stake downtown, too much at stake in our communities. And it starts with fire and ambulance and police and transit safety.
Those core services.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and up in our area in Ward 6, so I guess the station at, that would be 17th, 69th there.
69th, yeah.
I know it, it's not always full. I think, for the mornings for work, you see it, obviously it's a little more full, but I don't think people are using it to go out. And then you've got that community, they call that the big honking community where they're building 1 million homes across from Aspen Landing, 85th and 17th.
Yeah, like the Springbank Hill.
Springbank Hill. I mean, there are how many thousands of homes are going in there? Townhomes.
Ward 6 is doing its part for King and Country. I think the last data, it was like 3,500 doors, 3,500, and that area plus over
in there
in that general area and just north up 85th. So we're still densifying quite substantially in Ward 6.
So you have, and I get that. I know we got to look at traffic after the fact up there. That's going to be a problem. But I get we need the housing, so that should hopefully attract either seniors will go in there, but then you've also got the young. You used to call them yuppies, the young urban. I don't know if you call them that anymore, but the young couples, the starters. So we would want them to be utilizing the C train like in the other big cities. It's like we're catching up here. I feel right.
You're 100%, and you're exactly right. When we speak of our communities, you can call it age in place. You want somebody to start young, buy their first home, buy their first condo. Maybe it's a rental. You move to a condo, a townhome. You move to maybe a single family home if you choose to have a family. And then as you age, you go down maybe a condo and so on and so forth. Yeah. You want that all there. And it's got it. Interesting you bring up that point about traffic. I think when I think of transportation, I really detest when people say it's or cars or transit or walking, bikes. It's an and. A wonderful city like Calgary, it's minus 40 half the year. We need transit. We need cars.
Yeah.
We need transit. And we also need accessibility, bike paths, and people driving. And it's a combination of all three. And I think for anybody who says you have to choose, no, it's one or the other, you're incorrect. We have to recognize the realities that you need good roads. You need good transit.
Well, everybody drives.
Everybody drives. Of course they do. Of course. But if you can supplement that and get transit, and when it's a beautiful day, maybe I will walk to work. I will take a bike down. Perfect. But you recognize all three. It's an and, not an or.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartely. I wanted to switch gears a little bit, just as we kind of start to wrap it up for you. You're running as an independent.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are your thoughts on? This is a pilot, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard mixed. I hear some people don't like the political party thing. Some people do. I kind of think it makes sense. Do I like parties at the minimum? I'm indifferent, so I'm not sure which way to swing. But what are your thoughts on all that? And
fundamentally, I chose to run as an independent because I believe that there is no place for party politics in municipal governments. The needs of Ward 6 are materially different from Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's okay.
Yep.
And that's okay. And what it forces us to do is have a conversation. How are we going to get Bow Trail overpass over Sarcee? We're going to talk to all of the councillors who have folks that use the ring road that come up to Bow Trail and say, hey, let's work together. How are we going to get transit safety? We're going to work all the Calgarians that have a transit system through the C train. We're going to work. And it requires that discussion and negotiation. And what when you have that bias, when you're voting, the Westminster system, I get it. There's the concept of the party whip, and you vote with your party. But it just doesn't make sense to me. You have to vote what's in favor of Ward 6. And you swear an oath to the City of Calgary, no question, Calgary first. But you are representing your individuals. And I fundamentally disagree with the whole premise. In fact, we were talking a bit about the new ways, social media, and we put a posting a week or two ago about independence and speaking. I am a truly independent candidate. There's no political agenda. And we had 100,000 views. And people outside of Ward 6 said, John, you know what? It struck a chord with me. Now, our usual sometimes gets 500. So you can see sort of the scales.
You never know.
You never know what's going to work. Yeah. Lee Iacocca, the famous CEO of Chrysler, said 50% of my marketing budget's wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. So I echo Mr. Iacocca's comments. But it really struck a tone with people. And in fact, yesterday I was just at buying some gas, and after door knocking, and the gentleman said, "John, I saw your video on independence. I really liked it. I'm voting for you." And it was just randomly. I was literally buying a pack of gum or something at the store. So it really hit home. Is there a place in the future? Perhaps, but it's too quick. It's too early. The independence is to me what you need. You need to represent your ward. Naturally you align with people who have similar beliefs and values. I get it. But one commitment I've said, I've met all the mayoral candidates, and one commitment I've said to them, I said, look, there'll be days when I vote with you, and there'll be days when I vote against you, but you know that I'm voting because I believe it's a good idea. I believe it's a bad idea. But the next day, it does not matter what I voted yesterday. I will vote for what's best for Calgarians and what's best for Ward 6. And having that true independence where your colleagues can depend on you to make the right decision. It's not driven by dogma. My party says I must do this. It's just no place. I think there's no place in politics, municipal politics. For party politics.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
appreciate it.
Thought I'd throw it at you. I want to see because I don't think any of the parties have candidates in every ward. I think they kind of have several. One party they had in every ward, and one gentleman unfortunately had to resign right before the deadline. But but it's a mix and match. Mixed match. And I know in Edmonton, I think it's even less than in Calgary because we only had Calgary and Edmonton, the two, to experiment. I'm really curious actually what Calgarians feel on October 20th when they vote. Because that will definitely be the referendum. And look, I know many folks in those parties. They're good people. Sure.
So if they get elected, great. But I think, if independence is core,
you prefer not.
I prefer not. Absolutely.
I kind of assumed anyway, but I wanted to pose the question. Yeah, I think some people not a big. Some people aren't fans. Some people are. If we look back in let's just say you win.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, let's say you take it home, you get Ward 6, you put in your 4-year term or 8, whatever, however many it is. Let's say you put in your 4 years. I mean, you've been a CFO, you've been a CEO.
Yeah.
Now you're running a ward. You're hustling like I've already seen you already do. Would you ever put mayor on that list of things for you? Have you thought about it? Have you talked about that with your family?
I haven't got past October 21st. October 20th, excuse me.
Yeah.
I just want to win Ward 6 and I want to see what it's like to serve. I've been a business leader for 25 years. I want to give my part to the city. I hope it's 4 years. Hopefully it'll be 8 years, if you get elected again, because you're having a good time. It's right for my family now. It makes a lot of sense. My boys are older. I tell this story. This last November, I was driving to Drayton, going to the field. I love going to the field and talking to our field team. And spun out, hit the ditch. It was mine. Snowstorm, and I stayed at just a little hotel or motel. And I came home the next day, and I said, "Boys, did you miss me?" And they looked at me, and they're like, "You were gone," which is good. So I think the short answer is no. I want to focus on the 4 years. Have a lot of fun, make a lot of change. And you know what? If I can make those changes, and great. If it takes 4 years or 8 years, if I'm so privileged to be elected, but right now we're focused on getting elected. It's going to be it's a tight election.
Sure,
People want change. I just want to get through this first election and prove to myself and Calgarians what I'm capable of. I've had amazing success in business because I've been partnered with amazing people, and I want to see if I can bring that amazing success into City Hall. And make sure Ward 6 is taken care of. Yeah,
kind of a wait and see approach. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. But you know how it is. Sometimes you hit a good one off the tee, 300, and then you're already counting your birdie.
That's when I usually 8-putt. Let me tell you. That's
we all do.
Exactly. 300 would have to be downhill with a big wind. That's for
wind
sure.
at your back.
That's right. And maybe a few foot wedges too.
100%. Okay, well, so what do you say to Calgarians? Why should Calgarians vote for John versus the other candidates running in Ward 6?
I think it just comes down to the business experience, the ability to collaborate, the success that I've had that I want to bring to City Hall. We need that change at City Hall. It's the first thing we do is approve a $5 billion budget, and we need people that can know how to call a kettle black. We need people that can bring together. I mentioned one vote. I'm one vote, and we need 8. If we want to end blanket rezoning, I need 7 other councillors. If we want to be fiscally conservative, we need 7 other councillors. If we want to make safe streets, we need 7 other councillors. And my ability serving on boards, doing negotiations, and actually understanding how to get deals done, how to work with people, collaborate, that's really the differentiation. There's lots of success. People bring different skill sets, but my ability to get things done, a proven track record, and bring that business sense to City Hall, but still recognize you have to invest in roads and sidewalks and infrastructure. And it's that balance. And it's proven through my success in business, chairing public companies. And that's important. I bring that because my directors have chosen, saying, John, we see you as the leader. We see you as somebody that can bring, not a pushover, but you can actually get people to consensus, move the agenda forward. And that's what I'm hoping forward, that a community-minded but business-savvy individual leads Ward 6 and really make some material changes at City Hall for the benefit of all Calgarians. We're 1.7. We're going to be 2 million, just like that. And we need strong business people to guide and make sure the city is on the right path.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've well said, and you've got a proven track record already on your resume. So now you're taking a leap down to the not so glorious City Hall politics, the meat and potatoes now. So thanks for coming in today, and I wish you nothing but the best, and we'll see how it goes October 20th.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, and I really
Awesome.
appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Sean.